Can everyone hear me? Okay, amazing. So, wait, okay, great. So, hi everyone, I'm Chana Mason, and can everyone hear me okay? We're good? Thumbs up? Awesome, great. So, I live in Jerusalem, Israel, and in case you're wondering, wait a second, you do the math, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Yes, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's actually still dark outside, and I set an alarm and everything, but God blessed me to give me like a little bit of like a knock in here at 4 in the morning, so I had a chance to like actually wake up before meeting all of you. And I feel so blessed to be able to connect with people on the other side of the world right now, because normally we're actually in the United States for summer vacation, and we spend time with family, and we were planning on going to Colombia, where both we and Susan and Jessica are from, and so many other people here, and we didn't get to do that this summer. So I'm really, really excited to be able to connect to the other side of the world, at least digitally. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a vitality coach, which means that I help people with their mental vitality and their physical vitality. And I believe very strongly that the two of them are deeply intertwined. I help people clarify vision for their lives and manifest it, including in their businesses, in their personal lives, in their health. And also absolutely love to write. So I'm in the middle of, believe it or not, working on sort of 3 books, but have a few books already published, and I'm just going to give you a chance to show you what those are. So Ronnie Katz held up this book. This book is called The Size of Your Dreams, and it's all about how to manifest the life of your dreams, how to set goals and make them happen. But the really cool thing is that it's a novel. This book was originally started by my husband, Dave, and then he brought me into the project, and we had so much fun. We even snuck a Colombian character into it. And this book and all of my books are available on my website as a free download. So Susan, if you could type in chanamason.com/books, and you can get all of my books as a free download, which is awesome. So the other book that Dave and I wrote together is this book. This is a whopper of a book. It's called The Cash Machine, and it teaches the principles of financial independence. So it teaches you how to manage your money once you have it. It's not a book about making money. It's a book about keeping and growing the money that you have. And it's also a novel, and we decided to make it a romance because so much of our marriage got enmeshed with concepts of money, and we see that happen so much in relationships. So we went ahead and made it a romantic story, not even remotely Jewish, very, very not Jewish. The main character is Italian American, which means there's a lot of food in the book, and very not kosher Jewish food. So, okay, great. So I'm just gonna ask for people to mute themselves. Amazing. Okay, and the last book I'm going to mention is actually the most important book for what we're going to talk about tonight, and that's this book, Hold That Thought. So this is not a fiction book, though a fiction companion is in the works at some point over the next few years. And this book teaches 22 tools for how to engage in a process called inquiry, which is what I'm going to talk about tonight. It's a process of questioning your thinking and first of all, identifying what are the beliefs, what are the thoughts that are blocking you from experiencing the peace and the joy and the happiness that you're looking for, from moving forward in your goals in life, and how to question those thoughts and how to shift into new perspectives and act upon them. That's what this book is all about. And this is really at the center of my coaching practice. So much of what I do really centers around these ideas. And what's been really amazing is of late, so many people have been talking about how Corona is pushing all of us to elevate our consciousness and to shift into higher understandings. In the Jewish world, people talk about Mashiach consciousness, right? To go into a higher state. And that sounds like so, I don't know, flowery. It sounds kind of like, ooh, let's go to India and elevate our consciousness and sit in an ashram for however many years. And I actually believe it's so much more simple than that. And I heard someone giving an explanation of what elevating consciousness is all about, that I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I do for a living. Like, I elevate people's consciousness, and I had no idea. So it's really, really cool. So on a simple level, in Judaism, we talk about how at our core, we are a soul. And we're a soul, just like Shakespeare says, every man, you know, the whole world is a stage and every man is a player, right? That's a deep understanding of what the soul is doing here on earth. My soul is currently dressed up in this costume called Chana, doing, you know, this thing called living in Israel, being a female, you know, married and a kid, and working as this vitality coach. And I'm not a vitality coach, and I'm not a woman, and I'm not Chana. I'm a soul. And this soul is playing dress up in this stage that we're in, playing this role. And when I deeply understand that in every part of my being, that is called higher consciousness. It's that simple. When I deeply understand in every moment that I'm just playing a part and I'm not identified with my clothes and with my house and with my role and with my thoughts and with my car, that is an elevated state of consciousness. That's it. And Corona is pushing so many of us to question the material things in our lives, to question so many of the relationships in our lives, to question our jobs, our where we live, just to question absolutely everything. And that's absolutely amazing, because the greatest way that you can elevate your consciousness is by asking questions. Sometimes life forces upon us circumstances that just force us to ask questions. Like for so many people who experience terminal illness, they'll say that the illness itself forces them to ask the type of questions that they've been avoiding their entire lives. What's the meaning of life? What relationships are really important? What is my life really about, right? And if you can ask those questions within yourself, rather than have those questions forced upon you, it's a much kinder and sweeter way to live and to engage with the world. And that's what we're going to be playing around with today. We're going to be learning about this concept of asking questions, because so many of us are stuck in this box of thinking, in this boxy way of thinking that we've had since we were children. And most of our thoughts, we don't bother even questioning them. Like our core beliefs, we don't bother questioning them. And when those beliefs bring us peace and joy and gladness and connection with other human beings, like, isn't it great that we have beliefs that do that for us? Fantastic. But my guess is you're here because you, like me, have beliefs that sometimes make you feel kind of yucky. Yes, raise your hand if that's you, right? Do you have some beliefs that make you feel kind of bad? Okay, great. So, excuse me, I totally have that like morning voice. So if you have some beliefs that make you feel kind of bad, either angry or frustrated or sad or lonely, so those are beliefs that are worth questioning. And you might already know that, but you're so deeply attached to the belief, or it seems like, I remember, okay, we've got people off of mute. Just make sure when you come in, if you could keep yourself muted, that's fantastic. So I used to say, I remember I had beliefs that I was like so deeply attached to. I said that they were etched in my bones. One of them was that I was worthless. I had the belief that I was worthless etched into my bones. Like I didn't think I could, I had any way of shaking it out. And those are the beliefs that we always have the power to question. The question is like, how do we do that, right? How do we question beliefs, and how do we shake into different perspectives? And that's something I want to show you today. And to be perfectly frank, the best way to do it is through example. And I forgot to tell Susan this, that I would love a volunteer. So if somebody wants to volunteer to get some free coaching in public in front of a crowd, no embarrassment, I promise you that whatever it is you're going to talk about, everyone else is going to be like, yeah, me too. I totally go through that. So if somebody would like to volunteer, you can press the like raise your hand button in the reactions tab at the bottom. And while somebody's like thinking about volunteering, I'll tell you more about this process of inquiry. So, and you can also write in the text like, hey, I want to volunteer. Okay. Oh, Jessica, we got a volunteer. Sucker, / one of those two. Okay. So I'm going to have you unmute.
Hi, I had to do that for Susan, so.
But you're also a great volunteer. You're like a great person. So I'm gonna do this thing where we close everyone's video but you. But I can't remember how to do that. Okay, I don't remember how to do that. But what everyone else can do if you want to be able to just see the two of us, you can turn off your video and it'll make it a lot easier for you to just see the two of us, and then you can put gallery view and you can see the two of us talking. Okay, there we are. Okay, so we can take your hand down. I think we're good. We're good with that. We saw your hands. Okay, so Jessica, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. Okay.
With my tea ready to do it.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask you a question, and that question isn't just for you, it's also for everyone in the crowd, okay? And my experience is that when you engage in this process of inquiry as an audience member, you have two options. One is you can totally hold space and be present for the person being facilitated and just observe what's happening there. And just by that observation alone, you'll find that your mind already starts creating shifts and insights and maybe an aha moment. Your other option is to kind of slightly notice the person being facilitated, but imagine that the questions are really coming to you and you can make it as though you yourself are being facilitated. My ADD doesn't allow me to do two things at once, but there are a lot of people who actually really enjoy doing that. So you can decide which version of this process you would like to do. Jessica doesn't have a choice. She's going to be facilitated no matter what. Okay. So as I ask these questions, you can imagine I'm asking them to you. And Jessica, I want you to think of a time in the past week when you were feeling yucky, frustrated, angry, sad, whatever it is. And you don't need to go into details about it. Just tell us, one sentence, and also where are you located?
Where do I start? I mean, I can tell you.
You don't need to tell us the whole story. That's actually not important at all, right? This isn't psychotherapy. That's what's really cool about this. You don't need to tell us the story. Just tell us what emotional experience or physical experience you're having.
I'm like feeling maybe like put down, or like maybe not feeling maybe so confident, you know what I mean? Like if or like embarrassed also could be, or.
So you're feeling embarrassed, and I'm going to say small, right? That's a simple language. Okay, great. So I want you to close your eyes and put yourself in this moment when you're feeling embarrassed. And I want you to tell me, just give me a location marker. Where are you? And what are you doing?
What do you mean? Like where am I?
In space. Like, are you in your kitchen? Are you in the car? I don't know where you are.
In the house.
Okay. So you're in the house. Do you want to give me a little more specific?
Yeah, it could be in the kitchen, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So there you are in the kitchen. And I want you to answer the following question. And this question is for everyone. And if you get one thing out of this session today, hopefully it'll be this sentence. So I recommend you write it down. And Susan, if you could put it in the notes so that other people can access it also, great. What am I believing right now that's making me feel this way? What am I believing right now that's making me feel this way? So Jessica, I have that question for you. I want you to close your eyes. There you are in the kitchen in that moment. What are you believing in that moment that's making you feel this way?
That I'm not being maybe appreciated, or um, yeah.
You're not being appreciated.
Right.
Okay, great. So I want you to tell me what is more like emotionally charged for you. You
Mm-hmm.
should be appreciated, you should be more appreciated, or you're not being appreciated.
I should be appreciated.
You should be appreciated. Great. So now we have Jessica's belief that she's working on. And if I could see your hands, right, you could theoretically raise your hand and say, hey, I've had this belief too. And I don't even need to see your hands because I know every single one of you has experienced this belief. So this is a great one. And what I like about it even more is that we've all been in a kitchen believing this thought. So it's like so incredibly universal, which is why I actually prefer that Jessica not go into the details of the situation, because then it's even more universal, right? Okay, great. So I want you to close your eyes, put yourself in the kitchen, and you're believing the thought that you should be appreciated. I forgot to take water. Okay. So I'm going to take you through the simplest tools of inquiry that I have in my back pocket. So I have a whole plethora of tools of inquiry, and a handful of them come from a woman named Byron Katie, who created a process called the work. And the work happens to be really easy to teach and to show people in this type of setting. So that's what I'm going to use right now. And the work consists of 4 questions, and then this process called turning things around. And so we're going to start with question number 1. Jessica, is it true that you should be appreciated? Yes or no? Boom.
Yeah.
And can you absolutely know that it's true that you should be appreciated?
Yeah.
And how do you react when you believe the thought that you should be appreciated?
Good.
Okay, so I want you to really hear the question.
Uh-huh.
How do you react when you believe the thought that you should be appreciated? Close your eyes, put yourself in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking you how you react when you are appreciated.
Okay.
I'm asking you to be in the situation just the way it is, and you're believing that you should be appreciated. And
Like,
everyone's behaving the way they're behaving. How do
frustrated.
you feel? Frustrated. And
Yeah.
how do you feel in your body when you're believing the thought?
Anxious, annoyed, like, a little bit like como agitada,
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you unable to do when you believe the thought that you should be appreciated?
I get angry.
What are you unable to do?
Not, not be happy, no? O sea, como que if I'm angry, then I'm like, I'm not happy about it,
Okay, what else?
Yeah, it gets to the point that I get annoyed about if somebody says something that is completely the opposite of it, then I get more annoyed. You know what I mean?
How do you treat the other people in your home when you believe the thought that you should be appreciated?
Bad. Like I'm not being the best responser because I get annoyed about the fact that I don't feel appreciated. Like I don't see it.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of like an advanced high-level question. There's something Stephen Covey talks about in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about there being 2 spaces that we can inhabit at any given point in time. There's our circle of concern, which are all the things that we care about, right? So I care about the starving children in Africa, and I care about my diet, and I care about my husband's posture, okay? Inside of my circle of concern is my circle of influence. those are the things over which I have the direct power to change and control, okay? So the starving children in Africa, no, nothing. I have no power over there, particularly because that happens not to be one of the nonprofit projects in which I invest, okay? And my diet, I have control over that because I get to decide what I put in my mouth. My husband's posture, even though he's my husband, and even though I'm connected to him, and even though his posture affects me, I can't control his posture. I can't control what he does with his body, and I can't control the results of his choices. So that is the definition of, so in those three examples, only when I'm in my diet am I in my circle of influence. Otherwise, I'm in my circle of concern. And the more time I spend in my circle of concern, the bigger it gets, and the smaller my influence shrinks, because there's only so much energy I have in the world. One of the things that the news media wants us to do is to spend lots and lots of time in our circle of concern and live in a state of fear, so that we get smaller and smaller and experience our influence as being really small, in which case we really need all of those powerful outside forces to come and save us because we're so small. So the only remedy for that is to spend more and more time in our circle of influence, and then the circle of concern shrinks as the circle of influence takes over, right? So whose circle are you in, right? So are you in your circle of influence, or are you in your circle of concern when you're believing the thought that you should be appreciated?
Right, because then I will be for sure with the concern because I'm not in my, but my question is, what when people say a comment, for example, like somebody in the family says a comment, and then that's already is external, and then of course I will feel like, you know what I mean?
The presumption, of course, is something to be questioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in my experience, one day my son could say something and I laugh, and the next day I cry. Same statement, same tone, same everything, depending on my mood, right? And I've noticed that, you know, one child will throw a temper tantrum and his mother will be totally calm. And when my child throws a temper tantrum, I'm very not calm, right? So it really just depends on what's going on with you. How somebody else speaks, moves, acts is not in your circle of influence. You have no control over there, right? The only place where you have control is how you react. And your reaction is always going to be a product of a belief. So for you, the belief that you should be appreciated is blocking your ability to be joyful. And it's also blocking your ability to do something that for me seems really obvious, and maybe some people in the audience seems really obvious, but we're going to put a hold on that. Because now what we're going to do is close your eyes. I want you to imagine there you are in your kitchen. And the belief that you should be appreciated has decided it's really hungry. It wants to have chocolate and potato chips. So you give it $100 and it's literally going to walk out of the kitchen and walk out of your house, and it knows how to like jack your car, right? So it's going to like, what's it called? Like jump your car. I don't know how to call it, jump start your car, and off it goes to Publix, to the local supermarket, and it's going to eat all the potato chips and chocolate in the store, which takes a while, which leaves you here without the thought that you should be appreciated. How are you without it?
Calmer.
What else?
Not focus about what other people say, more what I feel, you know, about what I'm doing, like what, like my own self-value. No?
Yeah. So what I saw on you is I noticed your disposition just calmed. It's like you became centered again. So rather than your energy being scattered, caring about what other people are doing, your energy came back into yourself. That's really one of the things that we're looking for, because the only place where we can experience calm and peace and joy is in the present moment inside of ourselves. When we're outside of ourselves or in the future or in the past, joy doesn't live there because those things aren't real. The only thing that's real is myself right now in the present moment. So that was beautiful. So now we're going to do what Byron Katie calls turnarounds. And I think this is really the genius of her process, is this understanding that that behind every thought, there's a whole slew of perspectives that are actually more true and more insightful and can show you so much more about what you really value and the type of human being you really want to be. And I think that's why thoughts come our way, right? We understand that people or situations come our way because they have something to teach us. And this is how we can see why beliefs come our way. Okay, so what's the opposite of you should be appreciated? I'm going to add a couple words. You should be appreciated by them, and you know who them is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You should be appreciated by them. Can you give me an opposite of that? You can take one of those words and just flip it.
That, like, the other way around, you're saying? Like,
take one word and say the opposite of one of those words. You should be appreciated by them.
Them should be appreciated by you.
They should be appreciated, say, by me, right? Because we're
by
talking
me.
about you. So they should be appreciated by me. So you could say, I should appreciate them. That would be an easier way of saying it.
Yeah.
So you were very focused on their appreciation. What I thought was really funny in the situation is that when you're angry with them, you can't appreciate them, right? So how is it true that you should appreciate them?
I mean, I feel like I do appreciate them, but it's more me, the giving, like the giving part, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so much, it's them the receiving and then me the giving. So it's like, I don't know.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. Are there times that your children, for example, are trying really hard and have overcome a challenge, or maybe they really want the candy, but they're restraining themselves and you don't even notice? Or they do something nice for each other or for you and you don't notice? Is it possible that that happens?
Yeah.
That you're in your own world, you're busy making dinner and they're doing something really, they cleaned up a toy, they put something away, and they were hoping that you would appreciate them and you didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Or they're at the playground and they say, oh, look what I can do. And you're like, I've seen it 50 times. I really don't want to look again. But for them, they want the 51st time is really important to them.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of those times where we can see like, oh, wow, okay, I could appreciate more, right? Yeah. When you're angry with your children, can you appreciate that you have them, that you're blessed with them?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, close your eyes. When you're believing God that they should appreciate you and there you are angry, are you really appreciating them?
I mean, at that moment, like when
that moment, exactly.
That moment, of course, like things, like they get a bit of crazy.
Challenging, right? So I notice sometimes when I'm believing thoughts like this, how much I dislike my son, and I forget how blessed I am to have him in my life, right? I only have one, and like I'm really, really lucky that I have him. So it's a big deal, right? Okay. So I want you to tell me another opposite. What's another opposite of they should appreciate you? Pick another word in the sentence.
I should appreciate them, no?
So you did that. I have another one. You should appreciate you.
Me.
Yes.
Yes.
So give me 3 examples of how that's true, that you should appreciate you.
Like me doing everything that I'm doing for my family or for my husband, no?
Do you appreciate what you're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to, like, I feel like I don't have a choice. Like I have to, so I have to be aware that I should appreciate that, no? That it's
that's really interesting. So Sarah, can we put you on mute? Okay, there we go. Okay. So for example, I don't know how to get Sarah. Sarah, can you shut down your video? I don't know, for some reason, I don't seem to have control over that. Okay, so let me make sure that I've pinned you so I can see you better. Okay, so Jessica, I want you to notice something. Are there times when let's say you cook dinner and you're waiting for other people to say, good job. Do you say good job?
I think it's more, I don't know, maybe not so much. I expect maybe my husband more than my children, because I feel like my children are not so much aware of it, but my husband, for example, so it's like more.
Want him to tell you good job. Do you say good job? Do you say, I made a fantastic dinner, and give yourself lots of love and appreciation for that?
No, I really don't.
So you want other people to do for you what you won't even do.
Yeah.
What's another way that you could appreciate yourself?
Drinking my tea.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Drinking your tea, right? Nurturing yourself, doing kind things for yourself, making yourself a cup of tea that you really enjoy. Something else that comes up for me is I notice within myself and with so many of my students and clients, we have a lot of mental chatter, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You'll be working really hard to make dinner, and there's like 5 different dishes you're making all at once, and then by accident, this is such like a Colombian thing, the rice burns, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? You burnt the rice, right? And then inside your head, you're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. I'm so stupid. How could I have forgotten? Da, 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 this and that, right? And there's this like whole chain, right? Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
Could you be more appreciative of yourself and of your efforts in that moment?
I should, yeah.
Yeah. And do you have control over what your husband appreciates or doesn't appreciate?
No.
But do you have control over what you choose to appreciate?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So all those times that you're saying to your children, wow, good job, you tried so hard, that's amazing. You could choose to do that for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to play and fast forward that same day, right? There you are, you woke up in the morning, brushed your teeth, went through your entire day, and now you're in the kitchen. And I want you to imagine that through that entire day, every time you tried, you did something that was hard for you, you did something kind for another person, which you do a lot all day long, right? Anytime you do any behavior like that, I want you to imagine saying to yourself, Jessica, what a good job, or wow, I really appreciate that you did that. Thank you so much for making me a cup of tea. I want you to just play fast forward, close your eyes and play fast forward and imagine that you did that throughout the day. Every time you did something, wow, that was really generous of you, right? Give yourself compliments all day long. See yourself, appreciate yourself. Wow, I know you really didn't want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning when the baby started crying, and that's so nice that you did that for yourself, right? So imagine that happening in that moment. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna stop that video. There we go. Okay, right? Now imagine this moment. The whole day has been passing. You've just been nurturing yourself with so much appreciation. And you get into that kitchen and other people are saying what they're saying. Do you feel the same, or is it different?
It's for sure different. I'm not pampering I'm not saying that to myself at all.
So when you do say that to yourself,
now that you're telling me, like the whole day for me to do that, I don't say that at all. Like the whole day, I don't think in my mind I'm like saying that, oh, good job, Jessica. Or
do, how easy is it for you to like let go when other people are saying what they're saying, or ignoring you, or saying the food is yucky, or whatever it is? How much do you care?
Yeah.
Right? So what you're craving is appreciation, and the one person who can guarantee to give it to you is you.
Yes.
That's what's so cool about this work, is that very often we have judgments of others, but really what it is it shows us the kind of person we want to be, right? We want to be someone who appreciates ourselves, and we also want to be someone who appreciates other people. And as soon as like we get that, it's like, oh my gosh, I now have actions, real clear actions of what I can take to make my life different today and tomorrow, to be happier now. And very often what happens is we're hoping that other people are going to give us what we want. And we think that when they give it to us, that they're giving it to us. And it's not true. I'm going to show you. So Jessica, I want you to imagine there you are in the kitchen and everybody's doing what they've been doing. And you hear a knock at the door and you open the door and there's this man and he's totally drunk. His clothing is disheveled. It smells of urine. And he's holding a beer bottle and he's kind of wobbling like this. And he's like, "Urgh," and he looks at you and says, Jessica, and you've never seen this guy before. So, amazing wife, an amazing mother. You do so much good and your dinner was amazing. What do you do with his words?
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird. Do you take them in or do you just kind of ignore him and close the door?
Yeah, ignore him and close the door.
Right. So watch this, okay? The drunk man says exactly what you're hoping your husband would say. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Same words. And who decides whether those words are going to touch you or not?
Me.
So who's actually complimenting you?
Me.
Can you get that? When your husband compliments you, you decide when you're going to take it and when you're not going to take it. Could be if you're really tired, you don't even hear him and you blow it off, right? But you decide, oh, I'm going to take those words and I'm going to take them into my body. And this guy, you're like, oh, what he says isn't relevant, so I'm going to ignore them. Even though they were very nice words, you didn't even take them in. They actually made you feel bad. You were like, oh, nice words. Wrong address. No thanks, right? So isn't that interesting? You, at the end of the day, are always the one who's in charge of your appreciation. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for volunteering, everybody. Woo! Cheer Jessica on. Amazing. So whoever wants to come back on video, that's kind of fun. Let's invite everyone back onto video. Yes, please. Thank you. Great to see so many faces. And we're just going to invite everyone to start their video. And I'm going to unpin over here so I can see lots of people and put gallery view on. Okay.
I have a question, Hannah, one last thing. So
yes.
Do you think during the day we should write down, the appreciation, or just think about it? What do you think is easier to do?
So I really like to avoid the word should, exactly because of the situation you put yourself into. Mm-hmm. What I think is meaningful is for you to think of things that work for you. So I definitely find that quietly in our minds doesn't seem to cut it. There's something about using our voice or using our pen that further ingrains a new idea into our mind. So what I was going to explain now is that every single belief that we have has a web, like a neural web supporting it inside the brain, okay? And when we question that belief, it actually starts to kind of put that web into question and make it a little bit shaky. And when you're able to see what your life is like without the belief and how much more peace and joy you have, so your brain is like, oh, wait, that belief's not working for us so much, right? One of the things that you were hoping to get when you believe the thought that people should appreciate you is you were hoping to get love and connection. Did it work for you? No, right? And for all of us, when we believe the thought that we should be appreciated, we get angry, we feel closed off, we don't want to connect to other people, we hold ourselves back. It's just a sad place to live, right? So when we see that whole neural web of logic and assumptions that we have starts to break down. And the way to really break it down is by making another web that's even stronger. And then this one just keeps getting weaker until it atrophies, literally in the brain. This is a physical process, right? So the new belief is that you should appreciate yourself and you should appreciate others, right? Those are two new beliefs that are actually really beautiful and bring you a lot more joy and peace, yes? Okay, so what we can do to ingrain those beliefs is act upon them. So for you, the idea of writing down appreciation for yourself, you brought that up as an example. I never said anything. So that to me is a cue that might be a meaningful tool for you to use to ingrain it in your life. You might also choose out loud, right? You're in the middle of making dinner and that's not a time that you can write things down. You might out loud choose to appreciate yourself, right? You might think about how you can appreciate others more. Maybe you There's one mom I know who likes to write notes to her kids, and even the kids who can't read. That's what's really cool. She'll write them a note, and then they're all excited that they got like a note, but they can't read it. So they come up to you and say, what does this say? You tell them what it says. And there's something really special about getting a written note. So the fact that you brought up writing as a tool, so that might be your avenue through which communication happens. It might be really sweet for you. Okay, so I want to share one more idea and then open the floor up for questions. So it could be that everything I've said seems totally challenging and novel and insane, which when I was first introduced to these concepts, it absolutely was. What I love about tools for inquiry is that they're so incredibly easy to learn, which makes it really great as a teacher for me because I find them easy to teach. And it also means that I have the ability and the faculty to be able to give them to children, to say to my spouse, hey, here's a list of questions. Can you just ask me the questions and sit there and smile? And, or not even smile, just ask the questions, right? Or I can do them on paper. So one of the things that I do in my book, Hold That Thought, and again, it's totally available as a free download on my website, hanamason.com/books, is that you can, oh, and the book just came out in Spanish. So excited. It's on Amazon in Spanish. I haven't put it on my website yet. That's like a step to do. Very, very excited. So in any case, so in that book, I really take you through 22 different tools of how to go into this process of inquiry a little bit deeper. For some people, accessing the beliefs that are bringing them trouble is a challenge. Really understanding the reactions to beliefs and how that wreaks havoc in their lives, that's another place to explore. And then how we go through the process of exploring alternate perspectives. So the book, Hold That Thought, really takes you through it. And I'm working now on a book whose title isn't so clear. It might be Inner Voices. It might actually be Think Outside Your Box, because we really like that title, for how to do it on your own with a journal. But it's really simple to just take the book, Hold That Thought, and apply it on your own with a journal so you can take yourself through the process. But I find that learning these tools with other people together is really the best way to ingrain them in your mind. So what happened for me was when I was first introduced to inquiry, a whole bunch of my girlfriends in my neighborhood, we all kind of passed Byron Katie's book around, and I also had Barry Neil Kaufman's book around for his process, the option process. And we decided to meet about 10 women every single week for 2 years. And we use these tools over and over and over again. And for us, you know, we're all Orthodox Jewish mothers. This was the most life-saving thing any of us ever did for our marriages, for our families, for our kids, but most importantly, for our relationship with God. This is what created for me really a deep sense of faith in my life for the first time, which is something that I'd really been struggling with. And it seems like so odd, right? This like process that doesn't mention any Torah concepts whatsoever, despite the fact that the ideas are all spread out throughout the Hasidic sources. The reason it's so powerful is that it brings us in touch with reality just the way God created it. Rather than being at war with the way life is, we become to appreciate exactly how life is and learn all of the lessons that God is constantly trying to send us. Just makes it so accessible. And then I had a girlfriend from that group. We decided that every morning we were gonna go for a walk. And one morning I facilitated her, and the next morning she facilitated me. And we did that for 2-3 years, I can't remember exactly. And so that's something that I've recreated in my course, Release That Thought, which is actually coming out this Sunday. So I've taught it before, in live in person for many years, and I went with it online in June, and we had 20 participants in our cohort, which was amazing. And what we have coming up this time is not just the support of a group, and not just that you'll be paired up with a buddy, which is exactly what I had in my life. I had a group, And I also had a buddy, so you could practice and learn how to facilitate not just yourself, but also other people, and really go into depth about how to do this process and how to ask questions and how to free yourself from the traps that our mind can bring us, so that we don't feel as upset and angry anymore, and we experience so much more peace and joy. And from doing this process, I now can sit in meditation and do yoga and journal and just sit in quiet and contemplate and be okay and not be bombarded by all the noise of the chaos of my thoughts. And so that course is launching on Sunday, and you can check it out on my website. Here, I'm gonna put it here. And it just so happens that that from now until Tuesday, right? Tuesday is tomorrow. Today is Sunday for you guys. Okay, so I'm like totally, because here it's already Monday. So through Tuesday the 28th, which for me is tomorrow, for you guys is in 2 days, I have a 33% fast action discount. So that's something, if you guys want to take part in, you can, and you can check out the course on my site. And now I want to open the floor up for any questions that anyone has, no matter how radical. I've had everything come through my life in my home. I'm a super open person. So it would be my pleasure to answer your questions. If anyone has any, just turn on your video and unmute yourself, and I'm here. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, I'm gonna ask. Oh, you're gonna, Ronnie, you can ask.
I was thinking about it. I have a good question.
Yes, go for it.
So, you talk about much of what you talk about, like even in the book, is interactions with other people or goals that you have that are affected by other people or other people have to participate in. But the perfect thing to think about now, so take me, for instance. I'm a single person and I have family and all that, and I'm on video and all that. So I have all that, I have that part of my life. But basically, for a period of 3-4 months now, I've been alone. Of course, I get out and I do things. I'm not complaining about it, but one of the things is to try to figure out how to be happy with yourself. People always say that, especially if you go through a divorce and you're alone. So I was never able to experience that, and I think COVID virus might have helped me with that. But it'd be interesting to hear some tips on, just without interacting with other people, how to be happy with yourself in your own quiet space.
Right. It's a really good question. I think that's actually one of the things that Corona is asking so many of us to do is, for those of us who are sitting at home alone, right, how to be at peace with ourselves. And yeah, if you can mute yourself, thanks. And for other people, it's how to be at peace with the family that you're with, because for some people, they might be with other people, but they'd almost rather be alone, right? Like there's just so much conflict going on, right? I definitely know that at the beginning of Corona, it was so challenging. My husband and I were both trying to work, and our son, didn't have school for a while, and he's a teenager, and there's just all the embedded conflicts of being the parents of teenagers, and everyone's trying to figure out, like, what are we supposed to do, and what are our roles here, and what about school and not school and all this stuff. So I can totally relate. The part about being alone for me is I think something that we all grapple with, because at the end of the day, we're all alone, right? Whenever we're in a space on our own, whenever we're in the bathroom or lying down and going to sleep, I think it's actually one of the reasons people avoid going to sleep, because there's that period of time before you actually fall asleep where you really have to be utterly alone. And that can be a beautiful and glorious and comforting experience, or it can actually be, hellish. And I think the difference is what beliefs, what thoughts are inhabiting your mind during that time. So exploring those beliefs gives you the opportunity to, you know, shift the ones that make being alone feel painful, and create so much more space for perspectives and beliefs that make being alone feel absolutely glorious. It's like, wow, I finally get to just not be distracted by all of the noise, and I get to be with absolutely beautiful and amazing and glorious me. Yay, I love this person. Who would I want to hang out with more than me? I'm so awesome. And that's actually one of the things that my son says about himself, that he doesn't really want to be with another person unless they're more interesting than his own companionship. It's like, wow, right? Like, and so often he'd rather be with adults than be with his peers, because adults are just so immensely fascinating. And peers can sometimes be boring because they don't have enough life experience to really challenge his mind. Like, isn't that such a different way of seeing things? So that's what's cool about having this time on your own, is that there's so much quiet that it allows all of those beliefs that maybe you've been shoving under the rug for so long, you kind of don't have a choice now. They're all coming to the surface. And I think that's true for everyone, right? Any family conflicts are all coming to the surface. Any potential unknowns, fears that people have that they've also been shoving under the rug, up they come, because it's time. We've come to a different era, ladies and gentlemen, right? I can say this as a message to all of you here from the land of Israel, right? This is what all of the rabbis are saying. And believe it or not, in the New Age world, which is totally not connected to Torah, they're saying the same thing. They call it fifth dimension consciousness. It's a consciousness of everything is one. And the way you get to that higher level of consciousness is by disentangling yourself from your beliefs and from your attachment to thinking that you're Ronnie Katz living in his house all by himself, right? That if you can connect to the unity of all that is, then life is absolutely glorious no matter who you're with. And that's what these tools teach in a really simple, tangible way. That's the goal. Is that an answer to your question? Okay, sweet. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have a question.
Go for it.
So in regards to, you know, having all the family around, like all the kids, and having to cook, having to clean, having to do a lot as you know, the housewife, and plus other stuff around that you already had before, and new things are coming up. How, you know, our kids need us more than the time that we have, or how can we manage, or how can I put in my brain not to overwhelm myself, that I can give to my kids what they need right now, and it's definitely not enough in my perspective.
Right there. You just shared two really powerful beliefs, okay? My children need X amount, and what I'm giving them isn't enough. So those are two really powerful beliefs. And what's really incredible is, you know, one of the people I admire most in life, who's been one of my greatest teachers, is Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins often speaks about his mother and how immensely grateful he is for his mother and how much she taught him. And his mother was mentally very unhealthy, beat him, and married 4 different men. And they were always financially struggling and in and out of different homes. And that doesn't exactly sound like the type of mother you're aiming to be, does it? He says, guaranteed, he would not have become the person he is without this woman. That she and the circumstances that she created forced him to ask really difficult questions and forced him to want to think about the kind of life he wanted to have. And she also taught him about the kind of life he didn't want to have in particular. And delving into the human condition and trying to help people all started because he was trying to help his mother. And now he helps millions of people throughout the world. What it is your children need is so beyond out of your business, you have no clue. Only God can know that, right? So there's what you have the desire to give and what you're called to give in balance to what you're called to do to take care of yourself. And that's all you can do. And trust that what your children need, God is taking care of. That's in God's business. And so if you got to give them X amount of time, so the kid who got the least amount of time will probably have to create the most resources inside of himself to entertain himself, engage himself, deal with the world, ask for what he needs, right? So the kid who's constantly given everything they need, they never get to practice asking. Every single gift that you give your children has a challenge on the other side, and the opposite is also true. And deeply understanding that, that's like a million bricks off the shoulders. Can you feel it?
Yeah.
Million bricks. Yeah. That's why questioning the beliefs is like huge, right? You're not enough. Is it true? For whom? Who decides what enough is? And as soon as you try to define enough, or as soon as you try to define need, that's when you realize you're like, oh, okay, I'm totally in God's business. I have no idea what exactly it is that they need.
So saying to myself, you know, what I'm giving is enough, or I mean, you know what I mean? Like telling.
It's exactly what they need.
Exactly
How much
what I'm
you
doing
want
is
to
exactly
give,
that.
exactly how much you want to give and can give and feel like giving. And if you decide to ignore them for a whole day, that's exactly what they need.
Okay.
I know. That's why,
I'm not gonna do that.
that's why you gotta ask these questions. It's easy for me to say that because I've questioned these beliefs so many times. But really taking yourself through the process of questioning the beliefs and exploring different perspectives and then seeing how they play out in the world is absolutely fascinating. So I used to have this belief that I had to entertain my son and that was my job. So now I have a child who constantly wants to be entertained from the outside and who's only now just learning how to, like, from the inside, entertain himself, right? That's the struggle. So yeah. Everything comes with its pros and cons. Okay, I have time for one more question, I think, and then we're good. Does anybody have a question? Okay, Nicole. Hi, Nicole. Just unmute yourself.
Hi. Thanks,
Hi.
Susan, for telling me about this. It's great. Good to see you. Okay, so in terms of just going back to like with children, what do you recommend in terms of how we can teach this sort of skill to our kids? Or is it just like we have to live it and demonstrate it in our own lives and then they like pick up on it? Or is there something we can actively be doing in terms of how to help our own children with managing their like big emotions and thoughts? And
so yeah. I happen to have started teaching my son this stuff as soon as I was learning it. I always find like you really have to know something first and ingrain it into yourself, because if you teach your children this and you don't live it, they're gonna call you on your hypocrisy big time. So just like know that, right? Because my son does that all the time whenever I'm hypocritical about anything, because he's a teenager, it's his job. So he was 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that. And his birthday was coming up. And I had already introduced him to this concept. We hadn't really fully played it out. And I was, this was his 5th birthday. I was in the middle of putting together a seminary that I had opened up. And it was crazy. Like my life was insane. I was super busy and my son's birthday was coming and I hadn't really done much to plan for his birthday. Let me rephrase that. I'd done nothing to plan for his birthday. And it was like the day before and he was really upset. And he said, Ima, you should have planned for my birthday. I can't believe you didn't plan for my birthday. You didn't do anything. And so I said to him, I was like, well, what's the opposite of that? Right? So at first I said, is it true? And can you absolutely know that it's true? And he's like, yes. And I said, okay, what's the opposite of I should have planned for your birthday? And he thought about it. He's like, I should have planned for my own birthday. And then he just stopped for a minute. He said, I didn't do anything to plan for my birthday. I said, no, you didn't. And he said, and it's my own birthday. I said, mm-hmm. And so he's like, okay, Ima, can we plan something together? And it just totally changed everything. And he was 5, right? He was a very precocious 5, but nonetheless, he was 5. So Byron Katie has a book called Tiger, Tiger Isn't True, which I actually haven't read, but it's like a children's picture book. You can check it out. But more importantly, these concepts are so simple that like as soon as children are very quick to see how much pain a belief brings them, you can ask them, how do you feel when you believe that you know, that your Ema should have planned your birthday party? And he could say, wow, I feel angry and tight and it doesn't feel good. And then you can say, okay, what's the opposite? And how does that feel? And he's like, oh, I feel so much happier. And kids understand that happiness is good, right? Adults get confused about this. Sometimes we feel like we're supposed to be upset in order to make life good. And it's like, no. If you want to be happy, already be happy now to make more happiness in the world, right? So just using these tools, learning them, like download my book, read the stuff in the book and find like, okay, what are things that you can teach your children already? The biggest thing for me is this concept of being in your circle of influence, which Byron Katie calls business. So the chapter in the book is called There's No Business Like Your Business. And it really goes into this concept a little bit deeper. So hopefully, is that helpful, Nicole? Okay, great. And I invite you to join my course, and then you have like an even deeper opportunity to delve even deeper into this. I made the course really affordable. It's gonna be on Sundays, 5 to 7 p.m. our time, Israel time, which is 10 to noon Eastern Standard Time. So what is that, 9 a.m. Dallas time? Yes? Okay, that's 9 a.m. Dallas time. And it starts next Sunday. Okay, so the sun is now rising, which is a call for me to praise God for the new beautiful day that's coming. So I'm gonna close shop here and say thank you to everyone. And thank you to Susan for organizing all of this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for doing this for everybody.
Take
you.
care, everyone. So
Have a
I'm
beautiful
gonna send
day.
Susan a record link when it's all recorded and done.
Will you send it to me?
Yeah.
I had a few people ask me for it, so.
Okay, awesome, great.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, Ronnie. Thank you.